Attack on Titan has released its final movie, aired in Japan. In case you're wondering, no, there's nothing new to the story. It was just re-edited as one big movie instead of two final episode specials. But as people have been talking about it recently again, I re-watched some of my favorite episodes. Of course, the episodes in Season 2, Season 3 Part 2, as well as many episodes throughout Season 4 are all amazing and my personal favorites. I also found myself appreciating one scene a lot more in particular, and this scene was in none other than the final episode of them all. No, it wasn't the Battle of Heaven and Earth, it wasn't the scene where Eren transforms one last time, it isn't the scene where Levi sees his comrades, although those scenes are all amazing on their own. No. The scene that stuck out to me particularly was this small conversation between Armin and Zeke. And while this conversation did lead to more hope that the Battle of Heaven and Earth would be won, it's the conversation and what it represents for these two characters, and the show as a whole, that stuck out to me. And though people have talked about it, I feel like it doesn't get enough recognition for how much weight it holds to the show. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Peak Stasis video. If you are by chance already subscribed to me, I apologize for the severely late upload. I was planning a script for a long video that I eventually scrapped. This scene here is a conversation between Armin and Zeke, who, if I am not mistaken, haven't spoken once in the entire show up until this point, which is quite fascinating. At the start of the scene, this fact isn't awkward, however, because Zeke seems to be in a sad mood. The conversation, briefly summarized, is as follows. Armin and Zeke meet in paths after Armin is swallowed by a titan, making him unable to transform. They say hello to each other, then Zeke goes on a rant about life. He says long ago, when there were just plain matter on Earth, a bunch of abstract things formed and disappeared until one remained: life. It was in life's nature to multiply and reproduce itself, which is why it survived, he explains. He finally reaches a conclusion based upon this rant that the meaning of life is simply to multiply. Now, this is a heavy statement, and before I continue that conversation, let's examine these two characters. Firstly, Armin. Armin is a very complex character, but I'll outline the most significant parts about this character, especially to this scene. In the infamous episode Midnight Sun, Levi is tasked with choosing to save Armin or Erwin with the Titan Serum. Though Erwin means a lot to Levi, he realizes that his dream ends at the basement, whereas Armin's dream goes beyond that. He chooses Armin, letting Erwin die, and Armin inherits the Colossal Titan. Though Armin is freed from potentially dying, he now has huge pressure on him. In subsequent years, this fact is shown a lot. When Armin uses his Titan, he feels guilty for all the destruction he causes, but more significantly, he feels like Erwin should have lived. This emotional buildup culminates to a peak when Armin gets abruptly swallowed by a Titan in the Battle of Heaven and Earth. In this scene, the scene before the conversation with Zeke, he looks at himself and has a meltdown. This is the tipping point for his built-up emotions in a way. He looks at himself, helpless and unable to do anything, and yells how much he hates himself. Armin is an amazing character, and while I believe it was right to choose him over Erwin, it did provide an interesting character arc for him, feeling guilt that he was chosen. Now, Zeke Yeager. Zeke Yeager is my personal favorite character in Attack on Titan, and perhaps one of my favorite characters in general. Zeke was born into an Eldian family somewhere in Marley. If you've watched Attack on Titan, you should know about the Eldians and the racism towards them. There are some Eldians that fled to the island Paradis long ago, where they were kept by King Fritz, who erected the walls. The Eldians who stayed were seen as better than those who fled behind the walls, but still experienced racism. From a young age, Zeke's parents, Dinah Fritz, and mainly Grisha Yeager, told him many things about Eldians. Grisha was part of the Eldian Restorationists, an organization that rebelled against the Marleyans. Grisha drilled ideas into Zeke's head from a young age about how Eldians are in the right, and all the horrors that they endured. These ideas were given to Zeke non-stop, to the point where he had no chance to find any kind of meaning in his life otherwise. This stress was overwhelming to Zeke, and the only relief he got was when his grandparents took care of him, having antithetical views to Zeke's parents. Though even with this relief, his life was still intense. He was put into the warrior program in hopes that he would be able to inherit one of the 9 Titans, but he plays dead last in every drill. And he isn't just slowly lagging behind everyone, he's always in dead last by a long shot. One day, a man is throwing a ball against a wall and drops it. Zeke is nearby, and the man asks that Zeke throw the ball back to him. Zeke throws the ball back, and after a few moments, the two start playing catch together. Zeke learns the man's name is Tom Casaver, and realizes that Casaver is the Beast Titan pretty quickly. Zeke and Casaver would meet again after this day to play catch again. As he progressively had better times with Casaver, his father's demands of Zeke became more intense. To Grisha, Zeke was merely a tool to achieve his goals. The important takeaway to what I'm talking about is that Grisha forced Zeke to be something that Zeke didn't necessarily want to be. Zeke had no chance to explore life's possibilities or to give his own life a meaning. Tom Casaver did offer Zeke a small amount of meaning to life, that being playing catch, which is important. Not only is it important to Zeke because he eventually became the infamous rock thrower, but also because the act of playing catch was a small, insignificant thing that meant the world to him. Keep that in mind. Zeke went on to turn his parents in, which Casaver suggested him to do after considering if they got caught, Zeke would get turned in too. After a while, Casaver agrees to let Zeke inherit the Beast Titan. There's more to Zeke's character, but to fast forward, Zeke meets Eren. He wants to free Eren from Grisha's brainwashing, without knowing that Grisha didn't actually brainwash Eren the same way he did to Zeke. Lots of stuff happens. Then Zeke finally learns that Grisha changed before having Eren. He treated Eren better as a father. He realizes that him and his brother are not the same, and his brother was offered a freedom that he was not, which definitely pissed him off a bit. Another thing to talk about is the euthanasia plan. Long after Zeke turned in his parents, Casaver tells Zeke how the Founding Titan is able to control Eldian's biology to allow them to withstand things like plagues. Zeke suggests the idea that if the Founding Titan were able to make it so Eldians are unable to give birth, allowing all Titans to slowly die out within 100 years painlessly, as well as all Eldians, it would offer a solution to everything. Casaver mentions how he had a family who didn't know he was Eldian, and when his wife found out, she did a double suicide, killing herself and their son. Casaver says, "If only I hadn't been born into this world," as well as, "I fled from my sins with my Titan powers." He also said he saw his dead son within Zeke. The root of Casaver's suffering is from the fact that he is an Eldian. The whole Eldian conflict with the rest of the world was because of Titans, and how Eldians at one point dominated the world with Titan powers. As a form of revenge and suppression, the Marleyans keep the Eldians behind walls made of Titans, terrorizing them with the Titan powers. Without the Titans, and without the Eldians, all these problems would be solved. Zeke wants all Eldians to cease to be reproduced. Now, let's go back to the original topic of this video. Zeke outlining the meaning of life as just to multiply reflects his past. He wants all Eldians to stop reproducing, and that the only reason they want to reproduce is that because it's in their nature to do so. At this point, it's clear that Zeke has given up on this life. Armin tells Zeke that he hasn't given up yet, and Zeke asks why. Armin hesitates at first, until he sees a leaf buried beneath the sand. He remembers this leaf from a day that him, Mikasa, and Eren were running to a tree. Though this instance alone was seemingly insignificant, it was precious to Armin. Armin tells Zeke about this, about how a seemingly insignificant and unimportant event was so very precious to him. He mentions a few other instances that were also meaningless but very precious. Zeke looks at Armin's hand that he holds a leaf in and sees a baseball, which reminds him of Tom Casaver. Here's the important bit. Though Zeke has equated life's meaning to multiply and reproduce, he reminisces about the time that he spent with Tom Casaver, playing catch. The act of playing catch itself was insignificant, though it meant a lot to Zeke, even saying he wouldn't mind living again if it meant he could play catch with Casaver. In saying this, he contradicted what he said earlier, and gave life another meaning other than simply to multiply, even if this meaning wasn't necessarily significant. Suddenly, many past Titan shifters appear before them. Armin talks to Bertold, and Zeke talks to Casaver and his father. They ask to lend their power, and sure enough, the past Titans take control of their Titans in the Battle of Heaven and Earth. It outlines an existentialist idea, that if life has no grand meaning, it can have meaning for individuals. Small things can be precious, even if they don't mean anything. Simply being with people you care about, or in this case, fighting with and for them, is enough reason. Why is Armin fighting? So the world can have freedom. So people in the future may appreciate small moments just as Armin did. Though it is life's nature to multiply, humans are very complex, and with our little time here, especially for the Titan shifters who have 13 years after they inherit their Titan to live, why not do everything we can to enjoy ourselves? After this conversation, Zeke emerges, attached from the waist to the Founding Titan. He admires the view, remarking how he wishes he could have seen the view earlier. This is moments before Levi decapitates him, stopping the rump. In my eyes, this was a perfect Levi decapitate ending for Zeke.
Hello everyone, I am Jarlim. Levi may have killed Zeke in the end, but the Zeke Yager that he killed was not the same one as the one who killed the beloved Erwin. He became more mindful. The Zeke back then was one that was hell-bent on getting access to the founding Titan with his brother to fulfill the euthanasia plan. While maybe he still believes that his ideology was right, he gladly sacrificed his life in favor of everyone succeeding. Life is beautiful, you know, and though I guess he deserves to die for all the killing he's done, maybe that's okay.
Attack on Titan has been finished for over a year now, and it's hard to say goodbye since it's my favorite work of fiction of all time, but I wanted to make another video dedicated to it. This may or may not be my last video solely about Attack on Titan, but I will surely mention it in future videos. If you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out my other content, and if you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. Without further ado, thank you all, and I'll see you in the next Peak Stasis video.